Bangwanani Mwanilepo Vukenjani Klekwas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Bedi and Aina Raiza Kweyo. Today is election day in South Africa. Our neighbors are going to elections. May it be a peaceful process and may the results be observed with peace as well.
All right. Now, in today's broadcast, Nigeria fights cervical cancer with the HPV vaccine and extend campaigns across the country, and Canada announces a 5-fold increase in visas for Palestinians in Gaza. Uganda tackles yellow fever with new travel requirements. Those are our top stories this morning. You can follow all our programs on oneupdo.com or DSTV 285 or GoTV 25 in Namibia. And as Ashwin mentioned, South Africa is voting today, and Arrie Hougaard has the update on everything that will be happening in the Rainbow Nation later on this show. Be with us.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
We start our top stories in Nigeria. First introduced as part of a routine immunization program in October last year, the HPV vaccine developed to help prevent cervical cancer was extended to a majority of Nigerian states this week. In the country's southwestern Oyo State, health workers took part in a drive to spread information about the vaccine in local villages. We have heard about the cervical cancer before now, and we are aware of the disease it creates. That's why I asked my daughter to go get vaccinated as a preventative measure, said Ramatolai Awoniran after her daughter received the vaccine. The HPV vaccine is now available across the country. In Nigeria, cervical cancer is the third most common cancer.
Moving over to our next story, Canada has announced a 5-fold increase in visas for Palestinians seeking to join family members in the country. Minister of Immigration Mark Miller said on Monday that Ottawa would raise to 5,000 the number of visas offered to residents in Gaza under a special program announced in December. We remain deeply concerned about the humanitarian tragedy unfolding in Gaza. Many people are worried about their loved ones and have expressed a significant interest in temporary special measures we introduce for their extended family in Gaza, Miller said in a statement. Miller said the government is working to assist Palestinians trying to leave Gaza, but that movement out of the territory is currently not possible due to factors outside Ottawa's control.
Now, Uganda has rolled out a nationwide yellow fever vaccination campaign to help safeguard its population against the mosquito-borne disease that has long posed a threat. By the end of April, Ugandan authorities had vaccinated 12.2 million of the 14 million people targeted, said Dr. Michael Baganizi, an official in charge of immunization at the Health Ministry. Uganda will now require everyone traveling to and from the country to have a yellow fever vaccination card as an international health regulation, Baganizi said. Ugandan authorities hope the requirement will compel more people to get the yellow fever shot amid a general atmosphere of vaccine hesitancy that worries healthcare providers in the East African nation. The single-dose vaccine has been offered free of charge to Ugandans between the ages of 1 and 60.
North Korea's latest satellite launch exploded in a fireball before dropping into the Yellow Sea just minutes after lifting off, but analysts say the attempt showcased new strides in the nuclear-armed country's race for space. North Korea said it opens new tabs its latest attempt to launch a military reconnaissance satellite failed in flight on Monday during the rocket's first first stage, which featured a liquid oxygen and petroleum engine. An initial analysis suggested that the cause of the failure involved the newly developed liquid-fuel rocket motor, but other possible causes were being investigated, a report carried out by state media KCNA said. Although state media did not name the rocket or release photos, analysts said it was most likely different from the Chiloma 1 rocket used in the successful satellite launch in November 2023.
And in the last of our top stories, Nigeria's government is cracking down on illegal mining, making dozens of arrests since April for unlicensed miners allegedly stealing lithium, a critical mineral used in batteries for electric vehicles, smartphones, and power systems. The crackdown comes as Nigeria seeks to regulate its mining operations, curb illegal activity, and better benefit from its mineral resources. The global demand for lithium has surged due to the clean energy transition. However, corruption and minimal government presence in remote areas have led to rampant illegal mining, which has fueled militia groups in the north. In mid-May, a joint team of soldiers and police raided a market in Kishi, Oyo State, arresting 32 individuals, including 2 Chinese nationals. Those have been our top stories on Africa. Good morning. Now, with almost 28 million people registered to vote in South Africa's 7th democratic election post-apartheid, which is happening today, we're going to be talking to Arrie Hougaard about that election just now.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
All right, it's time to talk to Arrie Hougaard about the elections in South Africa. Good morning, Arrie. How are you? What's the atmosphere?
Yes, very good morning, Ashwin and Aina. Yes, a good atmosphere. It's well, firstly, for many, it's a public holiday, so that's nice for everyone. But the reason is that everybody needs to go and vote. So those registered, you mentioned 28 million. It's 28 million voters, 27.79 to be exact, million people that's allowed to vote today. And I hope that about 66% of that amount of people will go to the voting stations. Of course, we know that not all 27 million will vote, and that's been the what's happened in 2019 as well. So that is something that we must look out for how that would be. I think the big question is how everybody's talking about that. Will the ANC get majority? Will it be 50%, above 50%, below 50%, and also in the regions? So 23,200 voting stations up, ready from 7 o'clock this morning. So 9 minutes ago, it opened up. I went to some of the voting stations yesterday for early voting, tried to take some video and talk to people, but not allowed. It was the police were quickly on me. So they said, well, it's areas that we cannot record, so we respect that. We took some photos, etc., that we can show. But so everybody's ready, Ashwin. It's all systems go, and we'll see how it play out through the next day.
All right, let's talk about the man on the screen right there, President Cyril Ramaphosa, because as you said, the big question is, will ANC secure a majority? We're going to be hoping to see how that, actually unfolds. Not hoping to see, we will see how that actually unfolds. But something interesting happened last night. President Cyril Ramaphosa, just after 8 p.m., signed into law the Cannabis for Private Purposes bill. It's the timing of this, Arrie, which to me kind of feels like the ANC is desperate, because any political analyst will tell you that the ANC has never been more fragile than this election, with the EFF and the DA knocking on the door, but perhaps the EFF seeming more potent in the areas that the ANC usually expects to win.
Yes, I agree. And it wasn't only last night, Ashwin, it was also on the 22nd of May, just a few days ago, also a gender violence law that was signed in, that was important, that could have been signed in January, that needed to be signed in earlier. It was left late, also linking up to the campaign, and also obviously the health bill that was in the news, and it's a big component of voting. So yes, definitely many of those bills that were signed in was left late for May, and used as party, maybe propaganda, so to speak. So yes, it is concerning. And I think the big concern is that many of the, not really the one last night, but the gender violence one could have been done way, way, way earlier. And so it was no need to make that the political issue. But yes, 50% is the thing. I think the two big components, Ashwin, that comes out is KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. What will happen there? The MK party is a big component there all of a sudden. It was an area, KwaZulu-Natal, that the ANC in 2019 got 54% of the votes. It might be as low as 28%. And that's the polls indicate, we cannot really go 100% with the polls, but it is the indication that the MK might get as high as 34% support in KwaZulu-Natal. Nationally, if 66% people vote, the polls indicate that the ANC might be as low as 44, 43% nationally, with the DA staying around 22%. And the big role player there is the MK party that could be as high as 12% nationally, even more votes than the EFF that might be around 10%. So that's what the indications are. That's not something that we can predict. That's the indication. That's a photo I took yesterday at one of the polling stations. That was early votes, about 1 million votes that came in yesterday. It went free and fair, and everybody was quite friendly and happy. But it's the process that you go into. You get they make sure that it's you that's voting, and they must give you ID document. And you've got three options. So that is how the voting goes there, but it was all free and fair. Those are typically people that today need to work and cannot go to the voting station.
All right, Arrie, we understand that there will be 3 ballot papers issued to each individual voter. What do these signify?
Yes, the most important one probably is the blue one. There's a blue, orange, and pink. The blue one is important because that's a national one. So that's what you say, listen, this is the country that I want, or this is the political party I want to rule my country, to be in charge. There's 52 options therefore. There's 52 political parties that say that we're good enough to govern South Africa. Obviously the ANC and the DA quite prominent there. It might be for the first time that we'll have a national coalition since, 1994 there was a 3-party coalition, if everybody remembers. It was the ANC, the IFF, and the NNP. Way back in 1994, that was just leading South Africa into a new South Africa. But now we might have a new coalition, national coalition, if there's below 50%. So firstly, blue national, 52 options. There's 200 seats available there. And then it goes to regional and provincial. So regional is your big, or provincial is your big area, Western Cape. Regional is Cape Town. So there's also 200 seats there. So that will be the orange and the pink. Interestingly, in the regional, that is where they allowed individual candidates to put their name up. So that will be a big influence in what happens there with those 200 seats. So you might have a strong person in a certain area that is prominent in that area. He's an individual, not linked to any big party, and he can get into the seat. He can get a seat into parliament.
And this is the first time in a South African election that an independent candidate can do this, Arrie.
Yes, it's the first time, and they didn't need as many signatures as well as in the past, and it made it a little bit easier. But there's definitely quite a volume of individual candidates, and that will differ from region to region. So some regionals will have up to 60 people to vote, to some 30. But yes, it's the first time, so it's a good thing. So you have prominent people in the region that can make a difference, and those are the people that you want in seat to represent you on a regional basis.
All right, Arrie. So let's go through the important numbers, if you will. 28 million of the population of the 62 million are registered to vote. We don't expect all 28 million to arrive. What's expected is around 66%. This is the country's 7th fully democratic election since apartheid was dismantled. 23,292 polling stations open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Registered voters living abroad already voted on May 17 and 18th, and South Africa follows a proportional voting system. Could you please just explain this a bit?
Yes, I think it's there's different parties obviously that you have an option for. So it's a selection on the 3 levels. So it's on the national, regional, and the provincial. So South Africa, go to the voting stations. You need to be free and fair. The ISC make sure that it's all good. And it's also interesting to see that you have the prisoners that's also allowed to vote, Ashwin. And that is a good thing because they also they're in prison, but they're allowed to vote. So 14,753 registered prisoners will be there to vote as well. But the big focus today will also be on other coalitions. Well, there's a 7 or 10 party coalition already formed by the DA and other parties, like the IFF and the Freedom Front. So that will be interesting to see how that play out too. But
I think what I was trying to highlight mostly was that a lot of Africans assume, because of how strong the political figures in South Africa are, a lot of Africans assume that South Africans, when they go to an election, they vote for a president. So I wanted you to just make that clear, that they don't actually vote for a president.
Yeah, it's a vote for your political party. So then still it must be decided who represents that political party. So often it is the president of that party. But if the ANC gets the most votes, or 52%, it's clear that the ANC nominates the president. But they must still nominate that person. So on the 52 parties that is on the national ballot, there's 52 pictures. The only one that's a bit under discussion is obviously former President Jacob Zuma. That picture is still on there. But the constitution or the electoral court said that he is not allowed to be there. So that's another case. But that's only one of the 52 that you're not going to. But there's faces that. So when I go and vote later this morning, I will have 52 faces looking at me on the national ballot. And so in a way, I will probably be influenced by a face. But it's you're right. It's the voting for the political party that will still appoint that person.
All right, Arrie, what is your message to South Africans who aren't really into voting, those who aren't enthusiastic about leaving their homes to go and queue up
Voter
and actually,
apathy.
yeah.
The message is, what motivates me to vote is that every vote will count, and it seems like just one vote cannot make a difference. But you also cannot be critical, and you cannot also be standing on the sideline and say 20 things if you haven't been part of the process. So I think collectively everybody must understand that make your vote, and you can be part of the answer. So you have a right to vote for people that you think can do the job. I think what's been coming out, just briefly, we know that from the weeks that we've been talking, service provision, obviously job creation is a big thing that everybody's been doing. Everybody's been promising about 4 million jobs, so that is crazy. 2019, well, it's not crazy in terms of what they try to achieve, but it's been the same numbers in 2019 as well, and they seem to be going in the wrong direction. ESCOM is a big thing, obviously. Service provision, service providing is a big thing, but job creation is massive in South Africa at the moment. 33% unemployment. So many voters. There's a big component of South African voters that will look at that ballot and say, "Who can help me to maybe have a better way of living?" So that's a big component. So that's been massive campaigns over the last week on radio and television, and what I've seen is all the parties say that we're strong on service providing.
All right. Thank you very much, Arrie, for bringing us a comprehensive report on the South African election, which is taking place today from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yes, and we'll be proud to go and vote, and hopefully all will be free and fair. That's what we all pray for.
Absolutely. Something that is free but not always fair is the weather. We'll do a quick dive into our economic news story of the day. China's flagship economic cooperation program is bouncing back after a lull during the global pandemic, with Africa a primary focus, according to a Reuters analysis of lending, investment, and trade data. Let's head over to the economic indicators as Adi comes back with the sport.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news and starting off with the French Open that is being played in Paris. It's still week one. The news from the first round is that Rafael Nadal indicated that he will be back at the same venue, hopefully in the Olympic Games representing Spain. And it is after he lost in the first round against Alexander Zverev in 3 sets, and he's likely to retire at the end of the year. Number 2 seed, Yannick Sinner, he did better. He's through to the second round. It is after beating Chris Eubanks of the US in 3 sets. And then a good result also for number 9 seed, Stefanos Tsitsipas, beating Martin Fucsovics. He beat him also in 3 sets to advance also to the second round. All the top seeds on the men's side, top 10 seeds at least, are safely through to the next round. Not the same in the women's side of the draw. There's one top seed, top 10 seeded player out of the tournament already, Maria Sakkari from Greece. She lost to Navada Grasha 3-6, 6-4 and 6-3. And then a better performance by number 1 seed, Iga Swiatek. She's on good form. She had an easy win against Leola Genjin, 6-1, 6-1 the score there. And she will now next play Naomi Osaka. And then a tough game that was for Elena Svitolina. She's the 15th seeded. She had a tough game against a former top 10 player, that is Karolina Pliskova. She beat 3-6, 6-4 and 6-2. And continuing international sports news with soccer news that is related to coaches in the English Premier League. Enzo Maresca, he is the coach of Leicester City. He indicated that he's in talks with Chelsea, and that is to move over to Chelsea to coach them in the English Premier League. That's a big surprise because Leicester City just got promotion into the English Premier League again after falling out last year. So it's a bit of a surprise that he might move over to Chelsea. Seems like there's negotiations ongoing, and it is Chelsea prepared to pay compensation fee of up to $10 million to get Maresca to move over to them. Better news for Aston Villa that ended in the top 4. It is Unai Emery. He is the coach of Aston Villa. He confirmed a 5-year extension of his contract at Aston Villa. And to close,
let's quickly dive into the highlights from this morning's broadcast. Nigeria fights cervical cancer with HPV vaccine. Canada announces 5-fold increase in visas for Palestinians in Gaza. Those have been our stories.
Yeah, those have been our stories. Thank you very much for joining us on Africa Good Morning. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, and all the best to all South Africans that are voting today. Suraj Kanaka.